Satya Dharma Reflection on May 10, 2022. Samsara is always here at all times. Let's make a conclusion to purify onwards. Samsara of looking, seeing and knowing, of feelings, of mind, of emotions. This is all about samsara. Samsara of mental karma and its cycle. Samsara of behaviors through words, thoughts and actions. The mind in this way and that way. Therefore, samsara at large is always here, at all times, in all 32 realms of existence. Therefore, let's make a conclusion to purify samsara onwards. Don't be in silence. Don't be drowned within stillness or indifference. Don't be obsessed to give meanings and significance and involvement to anything whatsoever. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, constantly. Let's form up this reminder as a purification in itself. Constantly. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, constantly. Form it up to brighten out, helping through unwinding, helping through ending and ceasing. This is not to be drowned within stillness and indifference, not to be obsessed to give meanings and significance and involvement with anything whatsoever. Non-attached, even to the non-attachments, constantly. Let's form up the thought, the reminder that purifies itself. This is the reminder that purifies itself and helping through ceasing. One sentence is already cutting through for samsara. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, constantly. For the internal and the external. This one sentence has the anupap of mighty force of cutting within the cutting greatly already. The disregard is not about anything within itself. Let's share compassion and great compassion, form up to bless constantly, the form up that purifies itself. Not in the way of each one on one's own silence, stillness or indifference. That's not the way. Being obsessed to give significance and meanings and involvement. Samsara exists in the surroundings at all times. Let's make a conclusion to purify onwards. Each sentence is the compassion and great compassion in itself. It's all of the great compassion to help through the unwinding and releasing totally. This is the great compassion to help through the purification of the extinction and emptiness totally. Diligently share this compassion and great compassion through these sentences. Don't be obsessed within drowning in stillness, within itself, within the indifference. Don't be obsessed to give meanings and significance in anything, being deluded to be specific with any states, with stillness and indifference. All that which is limited already as it is, but when there is a specific limitation within stillness or indifference, this is the karmic habit in drowning, in maintaining, in sustaining, within the form up of Dharma, within a state that is formed up temporarily. Disregard even from the disregard itself constantly. The disregard is not relevant to itself. The disregard is not about anything within itself. Go on constantly as such. This will have the mighty force to help through unwinding and releasing greatly in all directions. This is not about each one on one's own drowning in stillness, in the indifference. This is each one on one's own delusion. It's all about karmic habits, all the limitations within stillness and indifference is like a delusion. This is limitations, being limited towards that which has no limitation. The anicca and the anatta has no boundaries in itself as it is. To be deluded is being specific within stillness and indifference for what? How can it be? How can it be limited? Disregard, even from the disregard itself, disregard that is not relevant to itself, so that it will not be limited with just extinction, ending, liberation, or detachment. This will not be stuck with just extinction or not, disregard or not, ending or not. The disregard is not relevant to itself right away, so that it will not be just about disregard or not. The anubhav in helping through unwinding and releasing continue onwards. Diligently share the great compassion, the form up that purifies itself continuously. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. That's all. This is the sentence of the compassion and great compassion totally. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself, all the same. There is no such thing as being specific, being in stillness or indifference or drowning each one on one's own. There is no such a thing. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself, all the same. Naturally, there will not be about anything within involvement or uninvolvement. That's the anubhav of helping through unwinding and releasing. This is not about each one on one's own mind. That is just each one on one's own delusion. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. The state of mind will not be related to itself. Any emotions, any symptoms, the mind will not be relevant to itself. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself is helping through purification, through unwinding and releasing for samsara without flaw. Go ahead. Each sentence is the great compassion totally. Once it's formed up, there is purification already. Purifying the delusion, purifying opinions and meanings, desire and delusive attachment. Each sentence gives purification totally for samsara. So form it up. It's all about sentences to help ending for samsara, samsara of titi, samsara of emotions, samsara of feelings, thoughts, emotions, opinions and meanings, samsara of insight, seeing and knowing, samsara of wisdom, samsara of concentration, contemplation, mindfulness. Even mindfulness is still samsara. What is this that is having mindfulness? What is this that gives significance and meanings to mindfulness? What is there within the mindfulness? Which kind of entity within the mindfulness? This is samsara in the mindfulness itself, the mindfulness that doesn't purify itself. Let's uninvolve with it, mindfulness, so that there will not be significance and meanings within mindfulness on and on. The mindfulness is not relevant to itself. This is the mindfulness that cuts through itself. Disregard is not relevant to itself. With this, there will not be an obsession with just disregarding or not. Each sentence purifies delusion totally, purifying samsara of delusion totally, purifying samsara of delusive attachment and desire. So just diligently share the great compassion. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. The reminder of helping through unwinding and releasing samsara, for the internal and the external samsara to be shared simultaneously. Disregard that is not relevant to itself, all the same to everything. Each sentence is totally brightening for samsara. Each sentence totally purifies samsara. Each sentence totally helps unwinding and ending for samsara. This is not to be dull on one's own, being still on one's own significance and meanings within dullness and stillness. Let's not be obsessed to be in the ordinary mind on and on. That is something within something, significance and meanings in something. Even disregard is not relevant to itself. Even the uninvolved is not even the uninvolved itself. Even the uninvolved is not relevant to itself. Why being obsessed with significance and meanings and involvement in anything? The reminder of purification for samsara continue onwards. This is called compassion and great compassion. So each sentence form it up. There is great benefits to brighten out for samsara. This is not just brighten out one's own mind only. This is brighten out samsara, helping through unwinding and releasing for all beings. For that which is assumed up as one's own mind or samsara's mind, this is to share ending simultaneously for all. Each sentence is to help giving ending for the mind. Let's not be just dull, each one on one's own, and then being restless, throwing to each other after a while. Even the disregard is not relevant to itself. There's a lot of grasping. Huh? Grasping for mindfulness, concentration, contemplation, meditative power, wisdom, single-mindedness, stillness, grasping for indifference, grasping for patience, grasping for perseverance. Therefore, it becomes crystallization, always dropping to be specific towards that which is not being specific. Being deluded to drop in being specific towards that which is not specific. Even the disregard is not itself. Even the disregard is not relevant to itself. Don't be obsessed to give significance and meanings and involvements until it becomes confusing and becoming samsara on one's own. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself continuously. The titi that purifies itself, the wisdom that purifies itself, the reminder that purifies itself, the form up thought formation that purifies itself. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself, the uninvolved that purifies itself. Go ahead. The uninvolved is not deluded to itself. The thought formations that purifies itself. Let's not form the thoughts all over, which is restless. That's not the way. Let's not form up the thought until it becomes restless in itself. Let's purify the thought formation itself. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. Disregard even within the disregard itself. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. Well with it. This is the damri or the thought formation or the form up that purifies itself. The titi that purifies itself. This will give cutting and ceasing samsara of restlessness. The seer and the knower that is restless. Thoughts, emotions, feelings that is restless, agitated within themselves. Disregard, even from the disregard itself continuously, it will give ending to the thought, the feelings, that emotions that is restless and agitated within the knowing, within the seeing. This is the samutai overlaying the knowing, the seeing. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, continuously. Simultaneously with senses and sense perceptions that's already opening. If the senses and the sense perception is not blocked, is already opening, is automatically having the essence of the blessing. By its own nature, it will be the essence of the blessing by the existence of the senses and sense perceptions. It will turn into the senses and sense perceptions of the blessing simultaneously, making a conclusion to purify simultaneously. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, constantly, simultaneously with the senses and the sense perception, it already exists. Simultaneously with eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind, sound, smell, taste, touches and shapes that already exist. It will be simultaneous purification of the extinction. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, simultaneously with all senses and sense perceptions. Then they will not become samsara automatically. It will not be in the way of circling. Just like senses and sense perceptions are just the ambassador of helping through ending for samsara only. They are not be here to circle in themselves or within anything. Just being the medium to help giving ending and ceasing for the samsara. They are not to be here to circle in themselves or within anything. Sound, smell, taste, touches and shapes are there not to be circling with them. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind, not to be here, to become samsara within themselves. They are just the medium and ambassador to help give ending only. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, simultaneously with senses and sense perceptions that already exist. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, simultaneously with eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind, and all the sense perceptions that already exist. Senses and sense perceptions, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind, sound, smell, taste, touches and shapes. They are just the ambassador to help give ending for samsara only. They are not to be here to circle within themselves. Therefore, disregard even from the disregard itself continuously. This will give ending the cycle of the circling within the samsara at large. Disregard even from the disregard itself all the same to everything. This will give ending the cycle of deludedly circling for samsara at large. This includes everything. It means for everything simultaneously. Disregard even from the disregard itself simultaneously for everything. This is not to be obsessed to having favor with any dimension of heaven realms. Disregard even from the disregard itself all the same to everything. Don't be obsessed to use determination and projection within seeing, knowing, being deluded within seeing and knowing itself. Don't be obsessed to set up and being deluded to it. Don't be deluded to the obligation, that which has nothing to do with obligation or setting up. Let's purify through the existence of eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind. Each sentence is all about purification. These sentences are just to give the brightness for samsara totally, helping through unwinding and releasing totally, and ceasing as helping totally. Is the sentences to help release the delusive attachment, whatever that is dense and so thick and sticky will be released naturally through these sentences. And it will be aligned with the essence of the non-attachment eventually. It will be naturally by non-attachment as it is, not to become each one on one's own realms of existence, not to be clinging and fixated. Otherwise, this is gonna be just each one on one's own realms of existence. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself continuously, helping through unwinding and releasing continuously. Simultaneously with eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind. Whatever that is bound so stickily through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind will be released simultaneously. This is helping through unwinding and releasing whatever that is bound in whatever ways. Within looking, seeing and knowing, listening, hearing, tasting, all the stickiness within thoughts, recalls, emotions and feelings in whatever ways. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself all the same, so that it will help through unwinding and releasing altogether for the internal and external senses. For both internal and external. There is no need to add the delusion to circle for one another. There is no need to add more restlessness for one another. There is no need to add more because all the delusion that already exists is already a lot. There is no need to add more to one another. Disregard even from the disregard itself altogether. In the way that there is no need to cut or to add, to increase or decrease anything further. Disregard even from the disregard itself all the same. In the way that there is no need to attach or detach in whatever ways again. Ending within one sentence, disregard even from the disregard itself all the same. There is no need to be obliged to be attached or detached in whatever ways again. Ending within one sentence, right there and then. Disregard even from the disregard itself continuously, helping through ending for samsara within one sentence. Go on continuously as such.